Hey guys, welcome to another commentary done by Diggity. This is going to be a pretty fun one. We got Tousan versus Fischei Game 2. Game 1 was a lot of fun on Lobotomy. I highly recommend you check it out. This is going to be both a celebratory, for a little bit, I want celebration announcements and a few corrections. So first of all, last match, I had Do Life instead of Tousan for some reason. I think I was just thinking about a lot of players that could make the round of 4, and for some reason Do Life slipped out there, so apologies to Tousan. I think I said Do Life instead of Tousan a couple times. He's starting in the upper left-hand corner as the red Terran, by the way. Upper right-hand corner, we got Fischei starting as the brown Protoss. As far as other corrections, I need to send out an apology to Monkey Toss, where he did a +1 Dragoon build in the earlier stages. I think was it in the round of 32? It might have been in the round of 16. I'm losing track. This is on Vermeer, by the way. Big shout out to Eski on the side thing. We'll get to celebrations in a second. But anyway, I said I don't know that +1 weapons works because I didn't know that it added an extra deduction to any shots from Dragoons. And I was doing the math, but what I did not calculate in the aspect of the math is that Dragoons have a base 1 armor, which I had forgotten about and neglected, and therefore, when you get +1 weapons, indeed, the amount of Dragoon shots it takes decreases from 10 to 9. Which means if you go for a 3-gate +1 attack and you get 9 Dragoons out on the field, you'll be in you can one-shot the Dragoons, although it's a little bit more challenging to make that work uphill. And also you have to make sure you're Johnny on the spot with your attack, because because shield regeneration and staggering Dragoon shots can also mess around with that. We're seeing a 12 Nexus, by the way, from Fischei. This has become very popular on 4-player maps for Protoss at large, especially in the current meta versus Terran, just to get whatever edge possible. Big economic opener for him. We'll see, and oh no, we might see a 2 factory directly into it, though, on the opposite end. It is possible this is going to be 1 factory into expansion. I'll talk about that in just a second, though. I want to talk about celebrations. So first of all, happy birthday to Optimator. When I'm casting this on Twitch, it'll probably end up on YouTube a little bit later, but happy birthday, Optimator. He's been a long-time supporter on the Twitch side. He introduced me to Skittish and Bus, who's an amazing Twitch channel. They're a fun DJ couple. Check them out, by the way. So additional celebrations. He also check out T Grotto. That is where he is employed, and he introduced me to that site. Actually, I'm drinking some of the iced tea in the background that I purchased from that location. So check out tgrotto.com. Afternoon Delight makes amazing iced tea. I'm not usually into the iced tea blends, by the way. It looks like Tousan got a scout here. But man, it's really good. So there's that. And then what other celebrations going out here? I just feel like giving a bunch of people shout outs in the community. Nyokin's amazing. Artosis is great. Artosis cast CNSL, if you guys aren't already watching that, it's fantastic. CPL's out there. It just feels like good times. DeWalt, hopefully this isn't a spoiler at this stage, but DeWalt finally got his championship after having a massive dry spell, and he's playing absolutely fantastically. We got a Marine moving out. Now we'll get into the cast. We got Marines instantly moving out with an SCV, but this is only a single Marine and a single SCV, and probes can honestly fight this off. We already have 2 Zealots on the way. So this is going to be, it looks like 1 Marine is trying to dissuade this probe, but we got a massive SCV pull now. I'm curious how this will work out with the stagger, because honestly the probes might be able to pull off and defend themselves here. 2 Zealots are going to pop momentarily. There we have the bunker getting built. 1 probe pulling off the line. It looks like it's going to get wiped out. Here comes the rest. So that is a massive pull to try to fight off this Nexus. But now the Zealot coming down with that. They're going to go ahead and chunk down on that bunker. This isn't over yet, though. How well will so now a cancellation. That actually hurts a lot. This is just lost mining time for Tousan now. And the probes of the Zealots making the way out, but we also have a Vulture out in the field. The Dragoons are a ways off the forward position. So a reverse sweep. The Zealot's able to kill at least 1 Marine. That's actually significant. 2 Marines down. Is he going to get a 3rd? Gets a 3rd Marine and might even get the 4th. This is a disaster now for Tousan. If you can keep the Marines alive, that's actually really amazing DPS versus the Dragoons in the early stages. There's still a lot of SCVs on the ground. The Dragoon not yet surrounded, trying to pick off that Marine as well. Usually the Vulture is actually a little bit less. More Marines flooding their way in. We have a defensive pylon on the front. An SCV cleverly blocking the ramp, which looks like it confused the Dragoon for a minute, but it looks like the Dragoon able to get a follow-up. It's unfortunately attacking the SCV that was attacking the Nexus, so it's still single Dragoon out here solo microing. We do have more Dragoons being produced on the forward field, but this isn't over yet. Tousan's still fighting for this. That Dragoon's somehow still alive. I thought he died in the background here. Taking he still makes it out with just a little bit of health. Another ramp blockade. And now the Dragoons getting backed up into their natural expansion. Repair on the Vulture right there. Now it's Probes joining the fight along that edge. The Dragoon finally dies, but the Marines wiped out as well. SCVs versus Probes with the Vulture to support. Second Vulture making the way in. And all of a sudden, this is working out for Tousan. The Vulture now, the Dragoon now blockading the ramp to provide some defense, waiting for the next spawn drop. And some Probes having to pull off the line to keep that Dragoon alive. Looks like a bunker being rebuilt. So Tousan, even though flubbing the initial parts of this a little bit with some good micro and some persistence, able to get the follow-up. And now all of a sudden he's up 5 workers. 2 additional Dragoons going to spawn. Nice timing on Fischei to back those attack forces in to get to one, spare that Dragoon. But we do have a bunker up all of a sudden at that natural expansion. A lot of SCVs and some Dragoons in the background. However, range is about to finish. So that bunker not going to be as effective as it might have been had it gotten up earlier. It looks like Fischei just going to hold momentarily, wait for some additional Dragoons and for range to complete before he starts pushing things through. Oh, 1 Dragoon loses its life. And that's letting additional Vultures in as well. This is turning into a wild one. The Vulture's able to get into the main. So 3 Vultures here. So the Dragoons have to deal with that. And Tousan continuing to attack that Nexus. Fischei at an anemic 11 workers right now. And that Nexus is plummeting. He needs to keep that Nexus alive, because if that Nexus isn't alive, he's not going to be able to replenish the troop count very rapidly. The Marines exiting initially to try to take out the Dragoon, to maybe allow the additional reinforcements through. We got 3 Dragoons working on that bunker, but that's 4 SCVs, but at least it looks like Fischei's allowing that Dragoon to take damage to keep the attack off the Nexus. You can't direct the attack right there. Now the Marines pulling out, able to get a second Dragoon kill. Unfortunately, again, the Marine attacking the pylon now. So we got 1 Marine attacking the Nexus, 1 Marine attacking the pylon, another Marine making its way up, and Tousan actually exiting after this. No additional, and keep in mind on top of this entire time, Fischei hasn't been producing probes out of this Nexus. So Tousan actually ahead. He's going to go ahead and drop his own command center after this, but able to wreak a lot of havoc and get a lot of damage done in a wild opener. So now, this is actually really clever of Fischei. He's intentionally taking the Dragoon damage, again, to keep that Nexus, which, oh my goodness, this still might be a shot. Is Tousan going to be able to get it? 51 health, 43, 39, barely keeps it alive. But the thing, and now Fischei can build out that Nexus and saturate that natural expansion. He might want to drop some additional gateways, because he has to play very aggressively to make sure that this Nexus doesn't get spit on, because honestly, the weight of its own flames might cause it to collapse at this stage. We have Siege Tech on an interesting siege, like a single siege tank in range here with the Dragoons out of the way, and that Nexus is done. We do have an engineering bay being built just in case in the background. But nice play from Tousan to, honestly, fearlessly, and Fischei also supply blocked right here, which for a moment, which wasn't helping him. But honestly, as far as the tug of war, he wrested that rope out of his opponent's hands. And I was expecting this to be a really solid match, but wow, what a great entry. So now, additional Vultures making their way across, some Marines making their way across. This is Fischei doing what he needed to do. He's going to go ahead and plug up that front as well with some pylons, but making sure there's sufficient Dragoons on the front where Tousan can't sneak through. Tousan maybe recognizing that it would be potentially a fool's errand to dive on top of that with the current troop count he's got, just making sure there wasn't a quick third grab. And proceeding from there, engineering bay floating out. We're not seeing any turret plants, though. Maybe just... this will provide some scouting to the north, just in case there was Reaver, but that's kind of interesting. I'm wondering if that was just a reflexive engineering bay build, just in case, and maybe wanting to spot in case there was a shimmer out in the front. We do have a mine out there, but that was, you know, that was a 125 mineral investment right there. Now a missile turret being built slightly on delay. This is one thing I'm always impressed by the guys on follow-up. This is knowing when they need to get those turrets up in comparison. It's just, it's one of those things where I'm like, how do you had such a chaotic game state. Do you have just the minutes memorized? I'm always impressed. Always impressed beyond my game level. Looks like we do, by the way, this is the other shout out I wanted to give before we had the interruption of the amazing early game. If you want to learn, I'm primarily casting for entertainment. If you really want to learn StarCraft, Protoss and Zerg in particular, go check out Jayun. He's a good friend of mine. Not an amazing friend of mine. He's a friend. An acquaintance. No, I'm just kidding. He's a friend. He's a guy that I trust in the StarCraft realm. He has a great stream. He harasses Jin, but also is extremely informative and gives a lot of tutoring advice out there. And he's just great. So go check out Jaeyoon. I think he's one of the better, as far as the informative channels out there, if you're looking for that, he's one of the better resources. Jin also produces a lot of videos that are memey and hilarious, and oftentimes tutorial. In the meantime, back to the game. Tousan dropping that third. That will put him a base ahead. And honestly, I'm not sure that there's a lot Fischei can do about it, because if he tries to march out with the Dragoons here, then he might end up getting swept underneath with the Vultures and end up losing that Nexus. And I don't know how many cannons will make this safe. So Fischei definitely playing at a disadvantage here. Going a half step back to Jaeyoon, I actually knew him in college when he was doing a lot of awesome stuff there. And he was heroically on the UCSD CSL team when that was existent. This is like old nostalgia. This feels like, so now we got everything. We got a nostalgia trip, we got a celebration, and we got apologies. Everything in the midst of all this. All right, turret taken out. Whew. Dragoons starting to press forward. This is a decent supply count now for Fischei, but again, he's still playing on the back foot. And he's certainly going to be, I don't think he's even been able to scout this on the forward front to recognize that he's played so defensively. And now the Vulture's actually able to sweep through. They're going to ignore the natural expansion, one making it into the main. Nice defense otherwise. Is this one going to get some probes? It looks like not, but what he is going to catch is that it's in fact a 2-base Arbiter play. So finds the single Stargate and the Templar archives, and also notices that that gateway count's a little bit lighter. So that's a lot of information for Tousan. If he wants to play a little bit lighter on the factory count, he can. But right now, honestly, I feel like everything's working out for Tousan. Right now, he's down about 20 supply. But if he gets that factory count up to 7, which he can easily sustain off 3 bases, maybe even drops a 3rd machine shop, which he can definitely afford again off 3 bases and a gas, he can just roll with superior amounts of mech, keep the upgrades rolling, and basically dance his way to a victory. And it's going to come down to some miracle engagements or a miracle recall from Fischei, and he already has forewarning that either stasis or recalls the play. And this is Vermeer, keep in mind. So if he pushes position on this forward spike and just camps some Vultures down here to harass any armies making their way that direction, it's going to be very, very difficult for Fischei to kind of push his way back into this. He did manage to, again, have that suicide. Well, he's got the Observer checking the factory count. But the problem for Fischei is because his economy was so anemic for such a long period of time, because this Nexus is such a liability, I don't know that there's a lot he can do in response to the factory counts being dropped, aside from get that 3rd, hope for the best, and maybe Tousan flubs his macro. I don't think Tousan's one of those guys that typically flubs his macro at these stages of these things. Although, as I say, that Fischei is maintaining that 20 supply differential with these 6 factories in place. I'm wondering how long that's going to last. Starport dropping. It looks like, honestly, I feel like Tousan probably could go up another factory and still be safe. I'm wondering if he's, and look at the siege tank pile he's got here. And again, I still do think he could drop a 3rd machine shop. Maybe he just wants to play it safe and get a good Goliath count out, just in case. Some Dragoons trying to engage the Vultures here at the 3 o'clock location. The Vultures dropping some mines and piling back, wanting to make sure an additional base isn't able to get grabbed. I will say that Tousan, considering his economic advantage, is playing somewhat passively. He doesn't need to get aggressive here, but he's not moving. Okay, as I say that, he's moving the siege tanks forward, so never mind what I was saying before. What I was going to say is he's not staging forward and taking mid-map control. Ooh, moving out. Maybe he wants to make a move towards the 3rd. Honestly, I feel like he doesn't need to attack into anything Fischei is doing. And this might actually be an opportunity for Fischei to sneak back into this. He's got the Observer. This is not a big pile, but it's coming in piecemeal. This is an overwhelming amount of siege tanks, actually. Never mind. Even unsiege with that +1 weapons, he can push into this. The Goliath's leading. But there is I missed this. There's a latent army to the north. So Fischei could attack from multiple angles. The Observer's getting picked off. Fischei saw that army making its way across the board. But here's the thing. Tousan can just set up these defensive stage lines, box Fischei in, and I don't know that's a lot Fischei can do about it. Now Fischei pressing forward, providing some of that cloak to force some of the comset that does allow some of these zealots to get onto those forward siege tank line. That's going to be a big mine drag, huge mine drag, and Zealots along that side edge. So Tousan, yeah, playing a little bit too aggressively. Fischei able to carve it up. And, however, supply counts are even after the fact. So even with that reset, usually resets work in Protoss's favor, but with this reset and a healthy economy behind this, 3 base versus 3 base, Tousan actually able to even the supply, which is putting him in a pretty decent situation. He looks like he's streaming some additional vultures forward. But the Zealot's right there to clear that minefield. Still trying to press through. He wants to say, okay, if we went for an army reset, I'm going to grab that Nexus. I think that might have been what was going through Tousan's brain right there. Is he was thinking, you know, even if I get the army reset, which usually is disadvantageous to Terran, if I can follow it up with a stream of units and press that natural expansion, I can take out that natural. We do have a 3rd base up, and that 3 o'clock base dropped. The Vulture is going to go ahead and press that 3 o'clock location. Tousan is really getting maximal advantage out of this. Absolutely beautifully, honestly, because right now we have a little bit of a skeleton crew making its way to try to clear out that Vulture, the Vulture attack force there, but that's opening up, because of that last army reset, that's opening up Tousan to go ahead and either have those Vultures harass the 3 o'clock, sweep in and take out those Dragoons at the 3 o'clock, which looks like he's going to go ahead and opt for, well, the Vulture's actually going to steam roll out. He can honestly wipe out this attack. This is just 3 Dragoons. They have +1 weapons. These Vultures could steamroll in, drop some mines, and make something happen. Some probes and transfer from Fischei. They're getting annihilated. But this is enough Vultures, honestly, that it's a threat at any location. There's not, again, mine drag on top of the probes that time, accidentally. And more siege tanks moving up for Tousan. Actually, I feel like this is a little bit aggressive, is pressing these siege tanks in. And we'll see if it turns into another army reset situation. But again, like where usually I would be like, army resets, totally Protoss favored. Now I'm like wondering if, again, the army resets are favoring Tousan. It looks like we have a stasis right there. The Vultures have been cleaned up. A single siege tank loses its life, and this is going to be 3 donated siege tanks. Tousan does need to be careful about this, though, because this is 4 bases up now and 4 bases binding. It looks like he is going ahead and grabbing his 4th at the 9 o'clock location, but it looks like Fischei has managed to stabilize. And honestly, he's done it admirably, considering that Nexus has been sitting at, what, 39 health? The shields has slowly grown, and we're starting to get past the halfway point on the shields, where that Nexus is becoming much less of a problem. It looks like Tousan is going to be able to reclamate these siege tanks. The siege tank recycle program going to go ahead and move up and clear that out. Wants to go ahead and rescue them. Looks like it's not going to happen. They're going to remain unsieged and wiped out. And unfortunately, Tousan might, as a result of this, end up donating another mech army. And now Tousan, now I'm going to say the trade's not working out for him, because that is 3 big armies that he's donated, and he's gotten very little as far as returns. So Fischei, now 20 supply up. He's got a 4th base. The shields have regenerated that natural expansion. He's got a decent amount of arbiters out in the field, so he's actually back in this match. 30 supply lead. We do have, it looks like the factory count has risen. The main, it looks like it's mined out. Do we have a second armory down? We got to have a second armory around here somewhere. The question is finding it. Actually, let me check the upgrade count. So +1 weapons, +1 armor. Yeah, okay, there it is. Just couldn't find it with my... Every once in a while when my wife is like, yeah, I put it right here. It's like, I can't... And it's right in front of me. I can't see it sometimes. You guys have that problem? It drives me crazy. Anyway, so... And actually, I do want to retract that claim for a second. Wow, my headphones just did something. They're doing some weird... Maybe they're picking up... hopefully that doesn't come up on the cast. I'm getting like a weird cell phone radio thing in the background. Looks like we got a recall moving up, but there was a lot of lost probes from Fischei, so he's a little bit down in that worker count, but he's still got that supply lead. Looks like he's staging up potentially for an arbiter recall over the 3rd. Never mind. Looks like he's going to go ahead and back out, but while he was maybe drawing some attention there and hoping that Tousan would press out, he is going to start pressing into this 9 o'clock base, and that's going to force a liftoff. And all of a sudden with this, Fischei up. And if he can grab an additional base, maybe in the bottom right-hand corner, he's got a 60 supply lead all of a sudden. And where I said previously that Tousan doesn't usually miss his macro, Tousan now floating 2,000 minerals apiece, or 2,000 minerals, 200 gas, I should say, hitting 3,000 gas right there. He does have that 3rd machine shop down, but Fischei has managed to re-macro into this. And we got the recall actually moving up now. Arbiter not able to execute, and oof, dies with full energy. That actually hurts a lot. But all of a sudden, bottom right, there's a mine in the way. But that would be fairly easy to kill. We have a dropship up that lost some health. I'm kind of wondering where that went and when it lost the health. I kind of missed that somewhere out there. Hopefully I didn't miss a drop that happened somewhere. But man, I got kudos to Fischei, because honestly, given the position and given how aggressive Tousan was being, I was expecting that Nexus to fall at some stage in the mid game, and for Tousan to tiptoe to victory to send it to match 3. And instead, Fischei, looking in good shape, viciously protecting this, denying that 4th base. So this is 3 base versus 2 base now. Command Center floating right back out to try to reestablish something. It looks like Fischei is now grabbing that bottom right-hand expansion and recognizing he can sit at least for a time and a little bit more of a defensive slot, maybe wanting to get less aggressive, recognizing that that +2 weapons, +1 armor is in place, which usually you want the spellcasting support units, you want the arbiters with plenty of stasis, things like that, to go ahead and approach this, and otherwise you're just trying to minimize the damage that maybe vultures that are roaming around doing, make sure that you keep your Terran pinned into his side of the map, and maybe get some of those gateways down here in the bottom right to follow. Fischei is floating resources, missed the recall. Oh man, recall made it into the 9 o'clock as I was saying all that. Made it into the 9 o'clock. Goodbye, Command Center. Great play. Tousan now in the red. We got some hapless Goliaths trying to sneak forward and target down that Arbiter. They're going to lose their lives. Do they get the Arbiter? They do not get the Arbiter. The Arbiter laughs with its 2 health left remaining. Fischei not missing a beat. So he's pressing forward, but this is also allowing... Well, never mind. I thought Tousan was going to use that opportunity to try to attack into the natural, but instead it looks like he's going to peel back. This is actually what Protoss wants 101, is this exact sort of thing where they can dive in, reset some armor, get rid of some mech, force the army back, keep bases alive, and then just draw back, rebuild that attack force, and do it all over again. This is the sort of thing that usually allows Protoss to win games. We'll see if it continues to be the case. Big supply lead still for Fischei. He's going to go ahead and grab a 6 o'clock Nexus as well. But doing the attack where your opponent's not, try to punish them, pull them back. And this is also, I will say, there's something about the Terran psychology I've noticed, where Terran, I think they get aggravated by losing bases and things like that. It's like, how dare you strike down my brethren? And they oftentimes will get focused on this, which is chasing down the army. So he's chasing down 4 Dragoons right now. But what these 4 Dragoons are doing is they're buying a massive amount of time for another army to grow here for Fischei. So this is time where that Nexus was not getting attacked, which is allowing reinforcements to potentially get in place to deal with this forward attack force and some energy to grow. Really, it's about time efficiency for the Terran to be able to take down valuable targets as rapidly as possible and make something happen. A few Zealots, I'm not sure where they were at stringing around. We got a battle probe attacking that vulture across the edge, a defense matrix on the forward front. Fischei is still sitting back. Few Zealots dying along that right-hand side. I'm not sure why. Okay, he's waiting for the Arbiters before he wanted to engage here. He's going to get a solid stasis. That is a big stasis point. Oh, the stasis only hits a single siege tank, so a bit of a whiff of a stasis. Second stasis hits so many siege tanks, though. So now, yeah, a great play. We got another set of army moving out, though, for Tousan, not missing a beat. He wants to go ahead, and I think now he's like, okay, I have dilly-dallied a little bit too long. We need to press into that natural expansion, make something happen here, because otherwise Fischei is going to run away with this match. So pressing some vultures in, trying to clear out those forward attack units, and maybe make these 5 siege tanks valuable. He's staging up in a good location near those doodads, the Zealots peeling back. The one problem he does have to worry about is a secondary attack maybe coming from the south. Fortunately for him, it doesn't look like any gateways have been established exterior to Fischei's base just yet. So if this natural expansion actually gets encapsulated and wiped out, Fischei could be in a lot of trouble because he still hasn't been able to build a forward bulkhead in an exterior location. The Vulture's also getting some worker kills. We do have a single Zealot. How did that Zealot get in there at the 9 o'clock? The siege tank's trying to retreat as they are destasised. They're getting ransacked across the way. A siege tank moving up to go ahead and attack that 2 o'clock expansion and might get some value here. And Tousan at a much, so he's got the mines up front. This is kind of a thin spread, so it's not very stasisable. 9 o'clock canceled again. Oh man, I worry about Tousan right now. So his natural expansion is just about mined out. He's got his 3rd up, but he doesn't have a lot else, so he needs to make this count. 20 supply deficit, but maybe 1 or 2 stasis. We'll see. And this is a good spread this time, although, man, bulked up right in time for those arbiters to get those siege tanks. So all of a sudden, Tousan not looking... This is looking really dire for Tousan, honestly, at this stage. 6 o'clock base is up, not yet mining, however. Well, Tousan able to clear out the army underneath. Supply count's even, and pure even because the worker count's about even. Tousan now getting some of that grit from the early game, continuing to press forward. I think his best shot, honestly, at this stage might be just do a continuation rally to the natural expansion, try to save these units, and again, press into that natural before Fischei is able to establish anything on the exterior. And it looks like that is, in fact, what he is doing. Some additional vultures making their way up. Zealot's able to get a siege tank, but a lot of the siege tanks, well, some of the siege tanks able to survive. He's going to go ahead and press in, kind of making a forward bulk line to go ahead and wipe out that nexus on the low ground, but also pin the... And we have some stranded probes up here. That's another problem for Fischei. Is a lot of these probes in this probe count aren't in fact mining. Those would have been great at the 6 o'clock location. It looks like a convoy was able to escape and make its way bottom right. So Fischei's economy, despite having a lot of these bases up, not as great as it might have been. Siege tanks need to back up a little bit and siege, and they'll be able to go ahead and take out that 3 o'clock. So in a sudden sweep, Tousan has managed to get a foothold at the natural expansion. And if he can reinforce this, which it looks like it is precisely what he's doing, he's distance mining. Is this a lifted off command center? Lifted off from... No, it looks like it was another command center built to go ahead and drop at the 9 o'clock location. Might have saved himself some resources and just lifted off that natural expansion. And a few troops with the mine encampment now moving bottom right. Fischei just now getting that gateway bottom right. He needed that a lot earlier, though, for this exact scenario, to have some troops out in the field so he could attack from multiple angles. Let's see if he's able to press out here, doing some good... So this is a lot of spread out siege tanks. +3 weapons, +2 armor, versus just the +2 weapons on the opposite side. Fischei about even supply, which usually puts Terran ahead, particularly with a lot of resource upgrades. Tousan is splitting up that attack force, and he's going to attack bottom right. Looks like he's going to be able to get that 3 o'clock nexus. The 6 o'clock nexus still alive for Fischei, so he's got something rolling. Looks like he is able to sweep out and clear up that containment, the embargo, at his natural expansion. That nexus still alive, but not a lot of resources left and no workers left. We have just 27 workers left for Fischei overall. Bottom right-hand base is all but lost. The 6 o'clock base is up and somewhat hidden. So, and Fischei going to check the 12 o'clock location, find nothing. That was actually a good base to not take for Tousan. It looks like he's reestablished that 9 o'clock, however, only has a single siege tank. Excuse me. Cough commentary. Not enough for a recall, though. Enough for a stasis. Actually, would have loved to see a stasis on the SCVs. Catches the siege tank. Some Dragoons moving up, so Fischei might be able to get some value here. But we do have a bit of a lazy drag of units trying to press their way forward. And we also have some missile turrets being desperately built to try to push back the arbiters. We have another solid stasis. Honestly, a good stasis. Oh, a stasis on it that could have clogged. If the stasis now, if it had clogged some of the units out, might have been sufficient to get some bonus damage from Fischei on the SCV lines. But it looks like now Tousan was able to go ahead and steamroll his way in, protect that. Bottom right is going to get taken out by a single vulture, insult to injury. The arbiter is going to be able to escape, but it looks like the probes moved their way from the natural expansion to that third. 6 o'clock base is saturated, but not a lot going on economically for Fischei. At the same time, not a lot going on economically for Tousan. This is, I want to say it's anyone's game, but I think Tousan might have the slight economic edge just with the oversaturation of the 9 o'clock. He does need to think about grabbing an additional base. Right now he has a supply lead, however. Fischei has, I would say, like the sliver of an economic lead. Very, very fragile, so he needs to make something happen still. And he's going to go ahead and pile drive forward with not a lot of Dragoons. Going to lose that Arbiter as well. And those Dragoons, honestly, are lucky they saw some action. They're lucky they're alive here. Fischei supply underneath Tousan's by the 20 count. I think Tousan will cap this if he just grabs one additional base. He can grab it at the 12 o'clock, expand into his opponent. Or if he finds that 6 o'clock, that, I believe, would also be game. Vulture's still working on this Nexus bottom right, by the way. That's how slow vultures are at killing stuff. Maybe if he built a couple probes, could have snuck them around and killed that vulture, battle probe style. Anyway, Tousan diving forward. I think this might be the last army for Fischei. An okay stasis. It looks like we do have a shuttle out that was able to zealot bomb, but those have been cleaned up. It's a lot of siege tanks left unsieged, recognizing that this isn't much of an attack force. Shuttle going to be able to sneak its way out. That Arbiter is gone. It's about to say, like a cloud could hit that Arbiter and it would just plummet. It's just too much. Falls out of the sky. So Tousan, again, with kind of a small contain, but that might be enough. 25 supply up. A dropship moving up all of a sudden. Is it just going to be there for scouting? I presume for scouting, or maybe just to make Fischei nervous. Yeah, looks like it's going to scout forward. Draw some units out. Another stasis, but the units behind falling out of stasis. SCV's charging to the front to provide some repair support. And do we have another? As soon as this command center drops, I think that will be the final nail in the coffin. SCV's pulling back. Zealots streaming forward. We have vultures here just in the nick of time, however, not in time to save that siege tank to the north. And it's like whack-a-mole. Some nice, wonderful spread from Tousan, by the way, of these siege tanks to make sure that stasis wasn't going to be as impactful as it could have been. The 3 o'clock no longer mining. The vulture's going to go ahead and steamroll in and kill the probes that are there regardless. The SCV's going to repair everything on the forward front. And I think Tousan has done it. 2 additional arbiters trying to crawl forward. We got, what, 2 dragoons and a zealot? 2 zealots to Fischei's name right this second. 50 supply, most of that in workers. And a good portion of that in arbiters as well. And stasising units is cool, but it doesn't kill them. In the meantime, you have that command center being built bottom left. We have a probe that's sneaking out there. The 6 o'clock's still been ticking away that entire time. But as soon as that base gets up and running, Tousan is going to be rolling. So that 3 o'clock base gone, the vulture finally able to wipe out that command center. The siege tanks remaining unsieged here at the 3 o'clock, and the prospects for a Fischei victory melted along with those dragoons right there. And they honestly look like the detritus of a candle as their blood soaks into the plateaus of Vermeer to grow into, I presume, mineral fields for future harvest. Ooh, nice kill. This one zealot is having a field day. It's like, if we're losing this anyway, I'm gonna have fun. Able to get a mind drag into a bunch of SCVs. Another one wanting to party. Running forward. Again, 40 supply lead for Tousan. If we actually do a little bit of math, it's not as bad, but it's still pretty bad for Fischei, because you got, 28 workers here. You can deduct that, so it's only a 20 supply worker lead, which is allowing these zealots to migrate in and continue to get mind drags. Is Tousan really gonna bleed out? Okay, he actually might be able to break out here last second. So we got 4 siege tanks to the south. Maybe not. This is just too little. He's making a good job carving this, honestly, with kind of like a scalpel-like procedure, but with Tousan's economy rolling now, you can see he's got a healthy bank in the midst of this, and we got more just siege tank reinforcements pile driving their way forward. They are trucking. And it looks like 2 siege tanks have found the 6 o'clock base, so this base is not long for life. And that is the last mining base for Fischei for this match. These zealots are just having a party right here. They are able to get right in front of the siege tanks. There's GG finally from Fischei. Great game. Well played from Tousan. Happy birthday to Optimator once again. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you for listening.